In 1956, the Sumerologist Samuel Noah Kramer published a description of Sumerian cosmology that almost no one outside his field paid attention to. He wrote that the Sumerians believed the earth was a flat disk and that heaven was a hollow sphere enclosed at top and bottom by a solid surface in the shape of a vault. Not metaphor, not poetry, a solid surface, a physical barrier above the sky with a floor you could stand on. Kramer spent his career translating the oldest texts in human history. He was not guessing, he was reading what the scribes wrote, and what they wrote was that the sky is not empty, it is not infinite, it is a structure, a ceiling with layers, a building with gates, and something living on the top floor that decides who gets in. And between the solid earth and the solid sky was the space where Enlil ruled, the space where wind moved, the space where humans lived, a pocket of air between two surfaces, one below your feet and one above your head. The Sumerians called the upper surface On, the domain of the god Anu, and they described it in 3 layers. The lowest layer contained the stars and the moon and the sun. The middle layer belonged to the Agigi, a class of gods who were stationed there as watchers. The highest layer was the domain of Anu himself, a region described as having a floor solid enough to stand on and a throne from which the cosmos was governed. 3 ceilings, one above the other, and between each one a gate. Think about what that means. The civilization that invented mathematics and mapped the movements of planets they could not see with the naked eye did not describe the sky as infinite space. They described it as a building, with floors, with doors, with someone on the top floor deciding who gets in. A Sumerian king tried to reach the highest ceiling. His name was Etana. He is listed in the Sumerian king list as the 13th ruler of the first dynasty of Kish after the flood. The text calls him the shepherd who ascended to heaven, and the story of what happened to him is one of the oldest narratives in human history. Etana had no son, his wife was unable to give birth. The one remedy was a plant called the plant of birth that existed only in the highest heaven in the domain of Anu. Etana prayed to the sun god Shamash, who directed him to a mountain where an eagle was imprisoned in a pit. The eagle had been thrown there as punishment for breaking a sacred oath. Etana freed the eagle, and in return the eagle carried him upward. The text describes the ascent in 3 stages. After the first league, the eagle told Etana to look down. The land was hills. The sea had become a stream. After the second league, the land was a hill. After the third league, the sea had become a gardener's ditch. The earth was shrinking below them. The descriptions match what a human would see ascending to extreme altitude. The ratio of apparent size reduction is consistent across all 3 stages. Then they reach the gates. The text says they pass through the gates of Anu, Enlil, and Ea. 3 gates, 3 thresholds, each one named for a different god, each marking the boundary between one layer and the next. The eagle and Etana made obeisance at each gate as if requesting permission to pass. They reached the level of Sin, the moon god. They reached the level of Shamash, the sun god. They continued upward, and at the highest point they found a throne. On the throne sat a figure the text identifies as Ishtar, surrounded by lions, holding in her hand the plant of birth. The thing Etana had crossed every boundary to reach, and then the tablet breaks. The oldest surviving copies of the Etana myth are damaged at exactly this point. What happened after Etana reached the throne is missing. One fragment suggests he received the plant and returned. Another suggests he fell. The text cracks open at the moment of contact and leaves a gap that has never been filled. There are scholars who treat the break as accidental. Clay tablets crack, edges crumble, pieces are lost to time. That explanation is reasonable and it may be correct, but the break occurs at exactly the same narrative point where other Sumerian ascent texts also go silent. Adapa is offered the bread and water of life in the heavens and is tricked by Enki into refusing. The text does not describe what Adapa saw beyond the gate. Inanna descends through 7 gates into the underworld and is stripped of everything at each threshold. When she reaches the bottom, the text describes her death. But the mechanics of how she was brought back are compressed into a few lines that scholars have never fully agreed on. In every case, the Sumerian texts describe a boundary. They describe a human or semi-divine being who crosses that boundary, and then the text either breaks or compresses at exactly the moment when the being reaches the other side. The Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, adds a structural detail that the Sumerian texts only imply. When Marduk killed Tiamat, he split her body in two. One half became the earth, the other became the sky. He set a bar in place. He posted guards. The text says he did this so that the waters would not be allowed to escape. The sky in this account is not decorative, it is functional, it is a containment system. The bar and the guards exist to keep something in or to keep something out. The text does not specify which. The Hebrew Bible inherits this structure almost exactly. Genesis 1 describes God creating a firmament to separate the waters above from the waters below. The Hebrew word is rakia. It means something beaten or pressed out, something solid, something manufactured. The birds fly below it, the stars are set into it, the waters are held above it, and God is described as walking on top of it. The same cosmology, the same solid barrier, the same suggestion that what is above the barrier is not meant to be reached by what is below. Three separate traditions, Sumerian, Babylonian, Hebrew, all describing the same structure. A solid boundary above the visible sky, gates or barriers within it, guards posted at the thresholds, and in every tradition the same warning. Crossing the boundary is possible, but what waits on the other side is not something humans were designed to encounter. Etana crossed, the text broke. Adapa crossed, he was tricked. Inanna crossed, she was killed. The pattern is consistent across every surviving account. The boundary can be reached, it can even be passed, but something on the other side pushes back. Modern astronomy has mapped the observable universe to a radius of 46.5 billion light-years, but observation has limits. The cosmic microwave background, the oldest light we can detect, forms a wall beyond which our instruments cannot see. Cosmologists call this the surface of last scattering. It is the point where the universe becomes opaque to observation, not because there is nothing there, but because the medium will not let the signal through. A boundary beyond which observation is blocked. The Sumerians would have recognized the description. They wrote about exactly this 4,000 years ago. They just called it by a different name. They called it the Vault of Inanna, and they said it was not a natural formation. They said it was built. They said it had gates. They said guards were posted there, and they said that the last human who tried to cross it either fell back to Earth or reached something so far beyond human experience that the record itself could not survive the telling. The Etana tablet is in the British Museum. Multiple copies exist. The ascent is translated. The three gates are documented. The moment of contact with what waits at the top is missing from every surviving copy. The sky has a structure. It has layers, it has gates, it has guards. And at the very top there is a throne that a Sumerian king reached 4,500 years ago on the back of an eagle. What he found there is on the broken edge of every tablet that tells his story. The text always ends at the same place, the place where the sky stops being sky and starts being something else. Something the scribes either could not describe or were not allowed to. The gates are still there, the boundary is still there. The question the Sumerians carved into clay is whether what guards it is still watching, and whether it noticed that we have been getting closer. Every telescope we build points upward. Every satellite we launch pushes higher. Every probe we send reaches further, and the Sumerians would not have been surprised by any of it. They would only have asked one question: have you reached the gate yet? And what did the guards do when you knocked?